Hi, I'm Kimberly Allison from Starliner Music. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to continue with my series entitled Blues Solos with Comping. In this series we move back and forth from lead guitar to rhythm guitar accompaniment, also known as comping. First, I'll perform Blues Solo with Comping in the key of G number 10, and then I'll break it down for you. Here we go. I hope you enjoy it. Let's break down Blues Solo with Comping in the key of G number 10. In these examples, we go back and forth from lead guitar to rhythm guitar accompaniment, also known as comping. I've taken a 12-bar blues and divided it into 3 parts. In each part, we'll play a lick, go to comping, play another lick, and go back to comping, back and forth, lead and rhythm guitar. We are in the key of G, and we have 3 scales that we'll be using. The first scale is known as the G blues scale. Now, the blues scale is based on the minor pentatonic scale, except the blues scale adds the blue note. So sometimes you hear the term blues scale and the term minor pentatonic used interchangeably. The first pattern we'll be looking at is the D form. That's because the root is on the D string. So this is G, our root on the D string, and here's its octave. Now, the G7 chord in this area of the neck does look like an open D7 chord like that. So if we look at the pattern that fits over the top of this area of the neck for G, it looks like this. So that is the D pattern of the G blues scale. We will also be using the C form of that same scale. So if we look at a G7 chord here, it looks like an open C7 chord just moved up the neck, and here's the octave pattern. This is considered a C form, and I'm playing a G7 chord. So here is the G blues scale in this part of the neck. I will also be using the C form of the G major pentatonic. So the major pentatonic for G looks like this. We'll also be using the D minor pentatonic in this example. Now, in this part of the neck, the D minor pentatonic is in the G form. That's because if we look at where the Ds are, the root's on the G string. It's also on the 2 outer E strings, but if we think about a G-type chord or a G-type octave pattern, it looks like this. So we'll be playing a D minor pentatonic, and we'll be using that over primarily the D chord in the chord progression. So the pattern for the D minor pentatonic looks like this. Now that we've looked at the scales, let's go on to part 1. Here's part 1. So we're starting off in the major pentatonic scale, and we're using a double stop here that consists of the root and the third of the chord. And I have a little bit of an approach slide. I'm playing triplets. There's a rest on beat 1. This is actually a lead-in lick or a pickup into the first full bar of our 12 bar. So there's a rest on beat 1, rest, and then triplet, and then we have this chromatic passage. Now these are thirds, which means they're 3 notes apart in the scale or the interval of a major third or minor third. In this case, they're minor thirds. But what we're going to do is walk them down chromatically. Now, these 2 notes are in the major pentatonic. We have respectively the root and the sixth of the major pentatonic, and we're going to walk them down chromatically till we're in the minor pentatonic. So when we arrive here, we're on the flatted 7 and the 5th of our scale, and it's actually in our chord too. So that's our chromatic move. So when we put that together, and then we go over to our comping. So the comping is going to be a G power chord, or G5, and then we're going to roll our ring finger into like a C triad. Now, are we really changing to a C chord here? No, we're just creating some motion around G7, so it's like a quick sort of suspended tension, and then we're going to hammer on into an abbreviated G7th chord. So I have a partial bar here at 3rd fret, and I'm hammering on with my middle finger. And when I get to this 3-note chord, I have the flatted 7, the 3, and the 5 of a G7 chord. So that's enough to suggest G7. And I'm hammering on into the major 3rd here with my middle finger, and because of the hammer, I'm hearing a little bit of the minor 3rd before I get to the major 3rd. This contributes to the bluesy quality of the comping, because the blues tends to be a mixture of major and minor sounds. So again, the comping is this power chord, roll with your finger to the C triad, and then hammer on into this abbreviated G7 chord. So that's the first half of part 1. And then we have another lick. And the next lick is in the minor pentatonic here, and I'm using this same minor 3rd shape, and I'm going with triplets. And then I'm coming down the blues scale. I have a pull off from the blue note, and as I go down the scale, and then my pinky is here. This is the minor 3rd, and I end up on the root here. And then minor 3rd to the root. And then I go back to the comping that we had before for G7. Let's put that together. On to part 2. Here's part 2. So in part 2, we're playing over the 4 chord, that's C7, and I'm starting with my middle finger and I'm sliding in to an E. So this lick is using chord tones out of C. Now I'm setting up the change to C here, and I'm already using notes that are in a C chord. They're also in the G major pentatonic. So I've got a triplet lick here, and I'm going between the E and the G, and these 2 notes are both in a C chord. So, and then I have a bend here. And the bend is a half step bend, and I'm bending the note A half step into a B flat. And the B flat happens to be in a C7 chord. Imagine that. So I'm bending into that. And so this lick is leading into the C, and then I arrive at the C chord. When I do this, I slide up with my middle finger into the E again, and then I end on the root C. So that would be our C chord. Then I go into the C comping. Now the C comping is exactly the same thing that we did for G, just moved up for C. So we have a C5, a quick visit to now an F triad. I'm just rolling my finger. And then I have this abbreviated C7th chord with a hammer. And then this is followed by another lick that's leading us back to G. So this lick that I'm going to play for you now is very idiomatic. It's a classic blues lick. It sounds like this. we go back to the G comping. So in this lick, I'm starting the same way kind of as I did on the previous. I have this triplet, and then I'm going to use the G blues scale, and this G blues scale is going to kind of take us back home to the G tonality, because remember, now we're leaving the 4 chord, we're headed back to G, and we have the G blues scale, including the blue note. So here's my triplet, and then I have a bit of a quarter bend here, so quarter bend, and then I end on the G. So at this point, when I'm arriving at the G note, I'm back on the G chord, and I head back down for G comping. Same as before. Let's put part 2 together. Now for part 3. Here's part 3. In part 3, we start off with D minor pentatonic. This is targeted over the D7th chord. So we have a brief passage in the G form of D minor pentatonic. It sounds like this. Notice I end the phrase here on the note C. Now this is the 7 in a D7, so I'm outlining the D chord change, but then I jump right into C comping, and this is the same pattern we did before. So we have the C power chord, roll to the F triad, hammer on into the abbreviated C7th chord. Now, this comping is just slightly ahead of the C bar. It's like an anticipated push into the C bar. And then we go into a lick, and the lick is over the C7th chord, but it's kind of taking us back to G. The lick sounds like this. So we're going to have about a quarter bend. And this is all like the G blues scale, or the G minor pentatonic. And then we're going to slide into the blue note here and end on the root G. At this point, we're back on the G7 chord change, and then we do a turnaround. So this is a double stop turnaround. I'm going to keep the note G, that's the root, on the top, and then I'm going to use chromaticism while keeping this G pedal tone. And I'm walking the note F, which is a chord tone of G7, down chromatically until I arrive at the 5th of G, and that's a D. So I'm using the chromaticism to create tension, and so we start off with 2 chord tones of G7, and we end up with 2 chord tones of G7. But in between you have chromaticism that builds tension. So here's the turnaround, and I'm going back and forth between the 5th string and the 2nd string. Now I'm using fingers, you could use a pick, either way. And those are triplets. And then I approach the 5 chord root, that's D7, using the blue note actually, so I'm using the blues scale here. And actually, when I arrive at the D, I'm going to make a D7th chord. It looks like this is an abbreviated D7. So here I have the root, and then I have the flatted 7 of D, and then I have the 3rd of D. So that's my abbreviated D7, and then I end on a G9th. G9th is the root, the 3rd, the flat 7, and the 2. That's the same as the 9. Let's put that together. That's it for blues solo with comping in the key of G number 10. I'm Kimberly Allison from Starliner Music, and I hope to see you back on my channel soon.